a shocking terrorist attack in the heart of Sydney threatened to shatter the ties built over the years by the Australian Muslim community. On December 15, 2014, a radicalized Muslim launched a lone wolf attack on a cafe in Martin Place.
My feeling towards the Sydney siege when it happened was just one of absolute horror. You know, there was this really iconic photo of some of the hostages being forced to hold up that flag. And obviously, you know, that flag now sadly has all these terrible political ramifications, but at its core, what's on the flag is the Shahada, is the declaration of belief for Muslims. And to see that being used in that way as a Muslim is devastating. And then once the siege had finished and it was all over, then the genuine fear about, when I'm walking the streets, do people think I agree with that guy? Do people think that this man is somehow representative of what the rest of us think?
You know, it drove us to actually start to learn our religion, because it was things that really kind of shake your faith. Is this my religion? You know, my religion is one of peace, you know, one of serving God, one that, you know, is passive, not violent.
I was in Sydney during the Sydney siege, and my number one worry was, how am I stepping up from this hotel room? How will people look at another hijabi? I was truly petrified. I was afraid. And I thought, you know what, this happened so closely to me. I was only 2 blocks away. And during the whole thing, I was not afraid. I was more angry. I was upset that this is happening. The last thing I heard was a Muslim guy who did it.
Me and my cousin went down to Martin Place after the siege, where people were actually putting down like flowers in terms of the memorial. And the people there were just honestly loved, like the amount of hugs and kisses I've got, you know, from random strangers thanking me for actually coming, you know.
Professor Greg Barton from Monash University has been actively working on building bridges between religions and is also an expert on terrorism.
For people, it's a very tragic event. I don't think personally this was an intelligence failure. I don't blame the authorities for not seeing it coming, but we have to learn some intelligence lessons. Frankly, I don't think there's any guarantee we can avoid such things in future. It's very, very hard. But our best line of defence is to pay attention to family members and people close who will be the first ones to see that somebody may have concerns. There are over 100 young Australians whose passports have been withheld because their mother or their sibling or father has spoken up out of concerns.
So why shouldn't I join this group? Why shouldn't I be radicalised, and why shouldn't I join up with this particular group and become like them? You know, because this is where they believe that they fit in. So it's only logical that as a human, you want to belong somewhere, you want to fit in somewhere.
The day after he kills a few hours. On the weekend, Bismillah, mashallah, he kills days. Where does he stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
The arrival of Lebanese migrants in Sydney has altered its socio-economic development. Strangely, in recent years, more Lebanese youths are getting involved in crime.
You're doing it to save yourself from hellfire. What are you doing?
People who get the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Imam Afroz is Australia's leading Islamic scholar, known for reaching out to troubled youths.
On the spirit of the law, right? It's a very hell-based world. If you don't do this, you will be punished. And this was from the...
Much of this actually occurs because of a post-war syndrome that's actually coming from essentially Lebanon and Palestinian backgrounds, Jordan, etc. And when parents have come over here, they have, if I could use the word obsessively, tried to get these youngsters to become educated in the secular system, which they have not been able to connect with because of the change in society. They have been misfits. They actually have had a cultural shock. And when that effort was being made, but no effort to make them ethical human beings, to teach them adab, through Islam, this has been completely devoid in their lives. And this is a slippery slope to criminal activity.
It's 5 in the evening. Bilal Kader is busy training a group of students. But he stops to do his evening prayers when it is time to do so. Just 10 years ago, Bilal was just as lost as some of the youths he mentors currently. He spoke of his youthful days, filled with the pressures of being different.
Not being part of social groups, even though this was only primary school, and always being shunned away by the other class members because I was different, you know, not blonde hair, blue eyes. Because we were quite different and our traditions were quite different as well, students actually picked up on that. And because of that reason, they saw me as a different person, as an other. Yeah. As I said, the youth that I described earlier, the youth who were growing up and stealing and committing crimes and these sort of things, these were my typical friends at the time. Also of Lebanese background, also of Muslim background. However, we didn't actually understand anything about Islam.
Those who felt outcast first got involved in petty crimes. They then found acceptance in criminal gang. Some turned to religion for comfort, but unfortunately were influenced by the call of jihad or the holy war for all the wrong reasons.
When they start to see factions, when they start to see groups which cause radicalization of Muslims, it sort of triggers their sense of, this is where I should belong. You know, these people will be accepting of me and who I am. So why shouldn't I join this group? Why shouldn't I be radicalized? And why shouldn't I join up with this particular group and become like them?
Imam Afroz is familiar with youths who are increasingly attracted to extreme ideologies.
We have an ideological problem, and if I could mention a Salafist movement, a jihadist Salafist movement right here in Australia, which asserts that the response of a Muslim in any time, whether it's a time of war or a time of peace, that the response of a Muslim towards the rest of the world is one of war and violence. And we know that this cannot be true because the name of this religion is peace. This cannot be true. However, youth are impressionable people. And if you are going to tempt them with money, if you're going to tempt them with sexuality, if you're going to tempt them with wonderful trips around the world, and if you can then actually make this sound that this is actually, that if you're going to be killed in this path, that you go to heaven, 8 out of 10 of these people who enter into extremist groups and ultimately travel overseas or think to do something wrong actually come from a criminal background.
Well, I think we need to understand that people tend not to make a decision overnight just to do an act of violence. What happens is they form a new sense of social belonging. They join a new family, a kind of virtual family. They identify with that group. They make new friends. They find answers. They have a sense of belonging. Their self-esteem is built. They feel that the life is important. Then they're told with groups like Islamic State, you can't be a proper Muslim unless you make hijrah. You leave your family, leave comfort, join with the Jamaat, join with the community in Iraq, Syria, and then you have to be part of the Khalifa. So that is the logic which they come to understand. And then maybe there's some attraction of, it's exciting to go and become a fighter if you're...
It was Bilal's strong religious beliefs that kept him on the right path.
For me personally, it was just a matter of completely cold turkey, completely saying no more to the friends that I used to hang out with, and then bringing on some new friends and being in a very good environment, which was good for me and good for my own deen and own iman. One of the things which helped me quite a lot was actually getting married. So alhamdulillah, as soon as I got married, that was a big push forward for me to start being a lot more responsible and taking care of my own life.
Sheikh Shady spent a lot of time with wayward youths who are often attracted to extremist ideas.
Yes, I'm addicted. That's my weakest link.
He says counseling them is often difficult.
What we mainly focus on is to tackle and counter that type of thinking, the radicalization. These people have been indoctrinated, and we need to counter that by sending the right message across. And it needs a lot of time and a lot of patience. The Muslim community is doing a lot, the Muslim leaders are doing a lot. The problem is the government's attitude sometimes does not help the situation. The government's approach towards the Muslim community does not help the situation. And these concerns we've raised so many times to the government, to the politicians, to the Australian leaders in many different occasions. Their attitude, their approach does not help the situation. On the contrary, it continues to inflame the situation.
What are we doing here? And where are we gonna go? It's like we just woke up one morning and then it's welcome to the show. Don't ask any questions, just go with the flow. Make as much money as you can and try your best not to get broke. Copy everything you see on the TV, from the hairstyles to the clothes, and don't think too often, just do exactly. What are we doing here? And where are we gonna go? It's like we just woke up one morning and then it's welcome to the show. Don't ask any questions, just go with the flow.
Kamal Saleh is a poet. His poetry reflects the challenges Muslims face in their daily lives. And he's been getting a lot of attention through social media.
Just do exactly as you're told. And if you ever get confused, then just turn towards the alcohol.
Along with two others, Kamal formed a social media group known as Talk Islam to help spread his message.
But in all honesty, I just need to know, is there more to the cycle than growing and getting...
Talk Islam started about 3-4 years ago. It started off with just a few brothers that were interested in doing da'wah on the street. And subhanAllah, after 1 year of its initiation, it went to a more of an online approach of da'wah, whereby we make YouTube videos, social media posts.
If you don't like it, go live somewhere else. But
Whatever.
these people belong here.
Excuse me, what are you wearing? Like, isn't it a bit too hot to be wearing that stuff outside? Like, seriously, like, don't you find it confronting? This is Australia. We don't have a place for people like this. Don't you want to be part of Team Australia? Don't you think it's a bit hot to wear that? Hey guys, like, do you see this? You look like a terrorist wearing that. You know that, right? What's in the bag?
They take their messages to the streets with unique social experiments to test reactions of fellow Australians on issues about Islam and Muslims.
See what she's wearing.
What's wrong with it?
Like, how can she wear this outside? Like, don't you find this confronting?
It's fine, dude.
I can't believe this. Why can't they just be Australian?
We take da'wah on a twofold system. We say that we need to counter misconceptions and then teach people about Islam, because it's very hard to teach people about Islam when we have this barrier set up in front of us.
Thing similar starts is when the people who are meant to be, marginalized don't come out and represent themselves, and they allow other people to represent them. And that's what happens. People are talking about Islam, but there's no one talking on behalf of Islam. And so I think that's where there's opportunities for people like us to come in. Really, any Muslim that's sincere, inshallah, just to come and really start speaking.
Are we even human? And are we really real? Because we've been cut so many times, I feel like we forgot what it feels like to feel. I mean, as the days go by, I just grow cold-hearted, a senseless soul, as I say.
This affluent neighbourhood of Brighton in Sydney is where most white middle-class Australians live. Ironically, this is where a young Australian man lives and works to spread the message of peace in Islam.
I think also just because of how I look, I'm very much a sort of chameleon, like I just look like, so many other people where I live, and just walking down the street, it's not the sort of thing where I'm visibly Muslim, and that's a big difference.
On the outside, there's nothing to suggest that he's a Muslim, let alone one who has made it his life's mission to preach. Peter Gold converted to Islam at the age of 20 and is now one of Australia's leading Muslims, known internationally for his graphic art form.
Yeah, religion was not a big part of my life at all growing up, and really I didn't really have any what I call spiritual type experiences or understanding of Allah or God or any of that. And I got to know one family in particular that really opened my eyes to and my heart to seeing how that, the spiritual feeling that it gave to that family, that sense of purpose, and really the sakina that it gave to Muslims. I just felt there was something in that for me. So I ended up becoming Muslim, and that really started this whole new chapter of life. So I've worked on a few different kids apps. I really love working on these kind of projects. One of them, a new one that's come out recently, is New Request. And basically it's Muslim space.
Since embracing Islam, a lot of Peter's work reflects his spiritual journey. Peter is known for his modern contemporary touch to traditional Islamic calligraphy art.
So from the Space Quran, so they've got to, you got to choose your little character. And I just see that as why should our Islamic artistic heritage stop in time and just be, something that finished? It's something that it always has been there and will always continue. Like calligraphy evolved. It didn't just get revealed and that was it. Architecture, mosque design as we know it didn't just get revealed and then that was it. Not at all. It took centuries. So I think it's about reflecting that artistic heritage that is beautiful and something that we should all be proud of, and it's universally loved and appreciated. And connecting that to a modern graphic experience through and how that translates to how our digital lives, how we use apps, how we use social media.